Hello everyone, Matt here with thevirtualinstructor.com and welcome to Getting Sketchy. Getting Sketchy is a series where we try to create a drawing within 30 minutes. So we have a time frame in which we're trying to work. We're trying to create a quick sketch here. We're not creating anything that's a finished drawing or painting. Well, it could be considered a finished drawing or painting, but really we're focused more in on developing our drawing skills. We're working those same artistic muscles, our brain muscles, that we would be using if we were creating a finished drawing or painting. And of course, practice should be a daily ritual if you're wanting to improve your drawing and painting skills. In this episode, we're going to create a drawing of a lemon using pastels on Canson mi-teintes pastel paper. It should be fun. So get your pastel materials together and let's get started. All right, so we're working here on Canson mi-teintes pastel paper, and I'm working on the side of the paper that's a little bit smoother, and this is kind of a warmer gray. It's kind of a lighter gray. We're going to start here with just a pastel pencil, and I'm going to sketch the overall shape of the lemon here, and we'll go ahead and put the time on the clock. Forgot to do that. There we go. So now we've got 30 minutes. We're going to try our best to finish this in 30 minutes. If we don't make it in 30 minutes, no big deal. We'll continue on until we are finished, but we're going to try to limit this drawing to just around 30 minutes. So the shape doesn't have to be perfect here, and you can see I'm drawing loosely. I'm trying to use my entire arm to draw this, so we're just kind of basically getting information on the surface as quickly as possible. I'm using a brown pastel pencil for this. You want to avoid black if possible. And we're just going to get the basic shape of the lemon in place. Of course, the lemon is sitting on a table, and there's a little bit of an indication of the table over here. So we'll lightly sketch that out as well. There's an area of cast shadow underneath the lemon because the light source, of course, is originating from the upper right-hand corner. So we'll quickly draw that in place. This is a rather small drawing. If we want to, we can give a little bit of indication of where the area of coarse shadow is located on the lemon. It's a rather warm shadow. And then once we've got that in place, we're going to go ahead and address the background first. Because we're going to be applying colors over the top, it makes sense to start with the background. We can apply colors over the top relatively easily. Now let's choose a background color. We're going to shy away from using flat black because that can tend to make a drawing look flat and unnatural. And we want to think about a color that's maybe going to create some additional contrast. So in this case, I think a darker blue might work because we've got, of course, yellow from the lemon, and we're going to have some reds in that shadow. So we're going to start here with a darker blue. And of course, we want to give an indication of where the table is. The table kind of goes off here. We're not going to worry about the edges or anything since this is a quick sketch here. And this darker blue does not have a lot of powdery pigmentation. You can see this. So we're probably going to go over the top of it with a little bit of black and make it a little bit darker and make the background a little bit more solid while keeping it. Let's see if that goes a little bit quicker. Yeah, using the side of the pastel. But this cooler background, this blue, will help to make the background look like it recedes off in the distance a little bit more. Cool colors tend to recede. Warm colors tend to come forward towards the viewer. Don't concern yourself too much with the pastel dust that's flying around. That's no big deal. We're going to be able to clean that up. And then we're going to grab a little bit of black. Now, this is going to be pretty dark, but some of the blue is still going to show through underneath this application, and it'll give us a little bit of a color temperature. It'll have a little bit of a color associated with it, even though it's still going to be fairly dark. And that's going to keep our black from looking flat and unnatural. In most circumstances, you want to try to shy away from using black on its own because it is so strong. You can see we're just putting a little bit of color down, and it is so strong it almost looks black, but it's not. It's got that color temperature associated with it, which is what we want. So I'm working quickly and moving my entire arm. I'm trying to get as much information down on the surface as possible. And of course, this is a sketch, so this is an exercise. It's not meant to be a completed or finished drawing. It's just practice. And if you want to see your drawing skills improve, you really need to be spending time practicing each and every day. As little as 30 minutes a day is going to help you see noticeable improvement, which is what we all want to see anyway, right? All right, once we've got that down, we're going to go ahead and give a little bit of indication of color for where the table is. I'm going to use kind of a reddish brown here initially. And we're going to kind of let that fade somewhat into the background. Almost where we don't see the edge of the table completely. It's kind of a soft transition. And that makes it all the way over to the other side of the lemon. Right back here behind the cast shadow, we'll give a little bit of an indication of it behind here as well, but again, create a little bit of a transition here. Just real quickly blending with our fingers. And again, that little bit of blue back there doesn't seem like it's making a big difference, but it is. It's creating a cooler background, and that's going to contrast with our warmer colors here in the foreground. All right, now before we start adding colors to the lemon itself, let's go ahead and give it an indication of the area of cast shadow, just so we know where it is. I'm going to use actually a black pastel pencil for this, and we're just going to go ahead and lay that in first. And it is going to be a little bit strong. Actually, let's bring that red over here because we want this to be a natural looking shadow. So we need to go ahead and fill in the color actually. And then we'll add the black over the top. So some of the color that we're adding here is going to mix in with the black to create that shadow. It might seem totally pointless that we drew those areas of cast shadow, but drawing at one time kind of gives us a good idea of where those locations are, and even though we're drawing it again here with a black pastel pencil, but you can see that color that we just added, that reddish color under here, makes the black feel a little bit more natural. It's not really strong and super black. A lot of times when folks are doing a color drawing and they're finished with it and they know it doesn't look quite right, doesn't look quite natural, a lot of times they're unsure why that's the case. And a lot of times it's just because they've used black by itself and they haven't really allowed it to mix with other colors, which is going to lead to a more natural appearance. Go ahead and bring this all the way up the back side, because it's pretty dark up here. Should be pretty dark. We don't have to make it quite as dark as what we observe in the reference, but it definitely needs to be a little bit darker back there. We can always go back and intensify the darks if we want with another application. And this is why we're kind of working from the background to the foreground. You see how all that pastel dust is flying everywhere? We can go right over the top of it with our colors for our lemon. And everything will look sharp and clean when we get to that point. Or relatively sharp and clean. All right, now let's start adding some of the colors for the lemon, and I'm going to start here with just a base color of this yellow initially, and this is going to help us to refine the shape of the lemon here. So we're going to bring it all the way up to the edge into the background color. We don't want to be too stiff with our shape either. It can be a little bit more organic. It is a lemon after all. And we're just getting this color down, and then we'll adjust the values once we have the color in place. Still keeping things really, really loose here. Always remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't matter if you're doing a drawing with pastel like we're doing here, or a colored pencil drawing, or a pen and ink drawing, or graphite, or whatever medium you're using. It never has to be perfect. In fact, some would argue that it shouldn't be perfect. It should be a drawing that's handmade by the artist. That's you. You can see all that dust that went flying around. Look how easy it is to clean that up. So that dust that's going to fly around, just let it fly around for right now. We'll be able to clean it up there at the end when we're ready to do so. A lot of people steer clear of pastels for this very reason, which is unfortunate because it really is a great medium to get information on the surface really, really quickly. And it operates very much in a similar manner as a painting. So it's a really nice medium to use. All right. So anyway, let's start developing some of the shadows down here. We can take our finger and work this in if we want. That yellow application. This is just kind of a medium yellow. It's a little bit of a darker yellow. And our light source is originating from the upper right-hand corner. This means most of our highlights are going to exist right in this area. And of course, our shadows are going to exist down here at the bottom. So let's go ahead and start adding some of the shadows here. And I want to keep these shadows nice and warm. I might actually use a little bit of orange, but we're going to start with a little bit of brown here. And we're just going to put that on and start developing the shape of the shadow. So again, the shadows are very, very warm here. And another thing that kind of holds people back from using pastels is the way that they're used to drawing. A lot of times people are used to drawing the details first, especially the contour lines or the outlines. And that's just naturally the way a lot of us start drawing when we start drawing anyway. So it's kind of hard to divorce ourselves from that when we move on to other mediums. But with pastels, you just kind of have to think of it more as a painterly medium and start by blocking in colors and then making adjustments as you go, just like as you would with a painting. All right, so let's go ahead and blend that in a little bit. And you don't have to blend these applications in if you don't want to, because that does create a little bit less control. But we can always go back and kind of refine things. So we've got some of the darker values in place. For example, we can go back with our yellow, the yellow we used originally. And now when we go back, we can kind of give a little bit of an indication of texture, as you see there. But we don't want to leave this brown here. We want to make the brown a little bit darker, closer to the strongest shadows, and we're going to add a little bit of color in there too. So down here where the shadow is the strongest, the core shadow, will add a little bit of a darker brown. This is like a burnt umber, just to get those values nice and dark, not black. We'll bring that all the way around here. Now let's add a little bit of color to that shadow as well. So we're going to add a little bit, maybe a little bit of red. we've got some of the darker values in place. Now a little bit of red is going to give us a little bit more of an interesting image. Of course, we want our image to look like a work of art. We don't want it to look exactly like the reference. So add a little bit of red in here and see what happens. Just a little bit of color in there. Maybe just a little bit more of that color. Let's add a little bit of orange here. Right up close to the edge of that shadow. Of course, red and yellow make orange, so we can do that. There we go. I think I like that. Now we can tone down the shadow again here with the brown that we used a moment ago. If I can find that brown. As the clock keeps ticking, we want to use the warmer brown that we used, not the darker one. There we go. That's it. This time it'll have a little bit of a hint of color with it. Some of that orange and red. It should feel a little bit more natural. More importantly, a little bit more interesting. Now you can see how all the dust has just gone everywhere, and it seems like we just don't have a whole lot of control of things. And that's what's so great about pastels, is we can go back and clean things up relatively easily. And we'll do that in just a second. Let's go ahead and make that shadow a little bit darker again with the darker brown. Before we do that, before we start cleaning things up, we'll bring it up around the back edge here just a little bit too. And remember, at this point in time, we've only really used middle values and darker values. We haven't even got to the lighter values yet. We're already starting to get a little bit of an illusion of form there. So a little bit of minimal blending here this time. Because now we want to start thinking about the texture a little bit. Now let's go back with our original yellow. And just go right into, or right over the top of some of those areas that we made a little bit darker, and we're just going to kind of touch it and start to create some of that texture. So you can see some of the colors underneath are showing through. Again, stay loose, stay quick. Don't try to get too obsessed with making decisions here. Just let things happen. Remember, it's the relationship of the values that ultimately leads to the illusion of form and texture. And of course, we've got form and texture going on here. And lemons are a great subject for practicing creating the illusion of form in any drawing or painting if you want to practice. Lemons are a great subject for practicing. All right, now let's start getting some of those lighter values in place. So we'll use a little bit of a lighter yellow. And again, just going to touch the surface, maybe create some squiggly marks to start to create that illusion of texture. And our strongest light is coming from the right side, the upper right side. So that's going to put most of our lighter values and highlights in this section. We're starting to create a little bit of an illusion of form and texture. And let's see, we've got quite a bit of time left. So let's go ahead and get a little bit lighter here. Again, small circular strokes there. Now let's go lighter still. We may come back to these highlights in a moment, but we'll go ahead and put a few of them on here. This is it looks like a white, but it's a really, really light yellow. It's probably as light as we're going to go here. All right, not too bad. Let's go ahead and put that stem in place here. See all that pastel dust that goes flying around. Don't let it scare you. Go back, clean it up real quick, and we can have that edge that we need back again with all that pastel dust flying everywhere. All right, let's go ahead and add that stem as I mentioned. So we're going to start with a green, and let's start with kind of a medium yellow green here. It's going to seem really bright and strong initially, but just like we did on the lemon, we're going to go ahead and adjust the values once we've got the stem in place. So once we've got that down, let's go ahead and add a little bit of a darker brown here. And this is the same darker brown that we used on the body of the lemon, and we'll go right underneath the shadow, underneath the stem here to create a little bit of a shadow, and part of that stem is in shadow too. Right here where it meets the back edge of the lemon. Don't have to describe everything completely and perfectly. Let's go ahead with a little bit of a brighter green here, brighter yellow green where a little bit of that light is coming around the edge. And then another brown. We can kind of suggest things a little bit. Don't have to describe it completely. And let's grab a blending stump and go in here and get that with the blending stump here, because that's just too small for my fingers. And this definitely doesn't have to be totally refined or anything, because our mind puts the colors and values together and makes sense of things. So we don't have to have perfectly strong edges or anything like that. Our mind does a lot of the hard work for us, and the mind of our viewer will do the same thing. So, all right, now let's clean things up a little bit. Clean up our edges, and let's see how we're doing on time here. Oh, we've got plenty of time. So I think we're going to finish this one within the 30 minutes. Now there is a little bit of shadow that happens right here, so let's go in here with the black and just create, this is the black pencil. And again, it's mixing with some of the reds that we already have in place. This will help to isolate the lemon a little bit further. Create a little bit of additional contrast as well. Now, of course, I really like the red of the table, but I do want to give a little bit of indication that it is sitting on maybe a wood grain table perhaps. So let's add a little bit of kind of an orangey brown here in a couple of areas, just to give it a slight indication that there might be a little bit of variation in the color on the table. We can play this up close to the edge of the shadow underneath the lemon to make the light feel a little bit stronger. That's pretty nice. Now let's make our cast shadow just a little bit stronger in the couple of minutes that we have remaining. So back with the black pastel pencil, just going to redefine this cast shadow a little bit more. Just redefine the shape. And we'll do one final cleanup of the background. Just get rid of any excess pastel dust that may be sitting around. And now our sketch is complete, and it looks like we were able to finish it within 30 minutes. So again, with pastels, you can work very, very quickly. You can create a painterly effect in a short period of time. But really what's most important is that you're practicing every day. That's where you're going to see the major improvement in your drawing and painting skills. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about drawing and painting, you want to develop your drawing and painting skills, then head over to thevirtualinstructor.com. We have a ton of lessons that wait for you. We also have an extraordinary membership program that includes video courses, weekly live lessons, ebooks, lesson plans, and just a ton of other great stuff. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time.